Namaskar, I'm Harpreet Kaur and I welcome you all to our live and interactive online training session on inclusive education and digital technology. This training program is organized by Central Institute of Educational Technology in collaboration with Department of Education of Groups with Special Needs NCERT New Delhi. Today we are in day 1 of the training session where the topic that we are taking up is inclusive education, concept, need and scope. You are watching us live on PM eVidya channels 6 to 12 and also on our YouTube handle NCERT Official. If you have questions related to the topic, please feel free to get in touch with us. Our phone number is 8800440559. We also have a dedicated email ID for you, that is training.helpdesk@ciet.nic.in. And you can always send us your questions, suggestions and feedback on our YouTube handle NCERT Official. Since it's a training program, there is going to be an assessment on the last day of the training session when we will release the assessment courses. If you wish to attempt them, you have to watch all the sessions very carefully. So, once you score more than 70% in the assessment, you will be granted a certificate that you can download from DIKSHA portal. For more guidelines on the same, please feel free to visit our CIET website. Now, we have been hearing this term of inclusive education. What inclusivity actually means? Is it restricted to disability only or it has a wider meaning? There's so many questions that coming to my mind that why inclusive education was introduced at the first place, as the title itself says, was the concept, need and scope of it. For all these questions and for all the answers that we want, we are joined by our experts. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Anupam Ahuja, former professor and head Department of Education of Groups with Special Needs NCERT. Ma'am, namaskar and very warm welcome to you.
Namaskar to you and namaskar to the viewers as well.
Now, ma'am, it's quite interesting that we are having this training program under the umbrella theme of inclusive education and digital technology. We all know that the entire process, teaching learning process has changed drastically, and National Education Policy 2020 is also talking about the use of technology in a big way.
Yeah.
When it comes to inclusive education, it becomes all the more important.
Yes.
Now, before you actually go ahead with your presentation, because it's the first day, I want to understand something. When we hear the word inclusion, we generally think that it's about the disability. So, is it the meaning is limited to disability or it has a wider scope to it?
That's an excellent question to start this whole week, because I think it's very important right at the outset that we are clear what does inclusion really mean and who does it cover. You asked me about disability. Yes, the world over, we began with looking at inclusion only for children who had some form of disability. And this thought process was reinforced. Currently, however, this concept has, over the years, because of our experiences that we gained, we have realized that it is not just a group of children with disabilities, born or who may have acquired disabilities, but it means respecting the right of every child to be in the classroom, and therefore it covers children across the spectrum with varied learning needs and learning styles.
You mean to say diverse learners with diverse learning styles, no matter where they are coming from?
Yes. So, in other words, we are talking of all children.
Okay, great.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that's what we mean by inclusivity.
Lovely. So, I've heard the meaning, understood it also very nicely. Now, ma'am, before you go in detail about the presentation, I request you to kindly share with us all the main points that you'll be covering in the session today.
Yeah. I am going to talk about the concept further because I think every teacher knows it. Whoever is the audience, they know what we are talking about, but let's look at it a little more closely. Let's also try to understand what is the need of practicing inclusion, what's its scope, and then I will focus on our NEP 2020 and the NCF school education and foundational learning. What are they talking about? And I think that then gives a teacher that momentum that to her work and motivation to go further.
Absolutely. Apart from NEP 2020, NCERT 2023 is another important document that we will be looking at.
Yes.
So, ma'am, now I request you to kindly go ahead with your presentation, and whatever questions we will be receiving from our viewers, we'll take them up in the end.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. Let's begin with this whole trying to understand very clearly for each one of us that when we are talking of inclusion, where do we include these children first? That is something that a teacher thinks about. Do we take them to another special classroom? Do we bring them in our own class? And if we bring them, where do we make them sit? How do we work with them? Well, this is something that I want you to give it a passing thought, because this is going to be running throughout my talk. First and foremost, you don't have to do inclusion. Children are different, each one is different. And when they are in your class, catering to their needs and helping them learn in a way that they feel that they are progressing and they are enjoying being with you is really having a class that's inclusive. You know, so you are not bringing in somebody from outside, you're not making him sit in a particular place all day and not move him. No, you are just looking at all the children who are in your class and ensuring that they are learning with a sense of purpose, and each day their experiences take them towards thinking that is critical, that's logical, and that you are not always comparing children with other children, but comparing the child with his or her own growth. So in other words, if I am at a particular level one day and the next week you feel that I've asked a few questions and I've improved and I'm moving in a direction which is making me understand my learning and want to build on it, that's your real objective in an inclusive classroom. Now let's look at it from the point of view of what has the world been doing over the years, what has happened in our country, what made us bring our after 35 long years, what does the NEP 2020, which is now already 5 years into time, what does it really expect of us as a teacher? What does the National Curriculum Framework on School Education, that's usually the acronym used, NCFSE 2023, talk about? Now, I will run a PPT and I'll keep addressing my thoughts so that we don't run out of time and do not go too much into depth into a certain aspect. I'll be using a PPT to share my thoughts. So so this is what I just said to the anchor and to all of you, what I'll cover. I will, let's see.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, so we're going to cover these main things here, and of course it's important that you talk about in detail, and understanding diversity, inclusion and equity is the first page.
Yes, and I want you to do this.
Okay, ma'am, I would like to share the PPT on your behalf.
Oh,
just
yeah,
give me
that
the
will be
cue,
better.
Next slide, and I'll do that.
Yeah, great.
So,
okay.
Should I move on,
yes,
or is this
do.
the page you
please
want to
do.
explain?
No, next slide. Yeah. So, what did we do right in the beginning? All in our country and in many countries around the globe, what we really did was initially, we said, here is a child who's different, may have a disability, may have another need. Let's take him to a teacher who is trained only to teach them, and let's take him away from the mainstream and put him in a, for example, special school. Let him learn with other learners who also have similar needs, and let him grow in that school according to what is the most suitable teaching method for him and with the learning material that is most needed. So, we actually sifted out children and we said we now have a so-called normal school, and here is a school which is meant for the children who are different. Let them go and attend that school, and as I said, with the teacher who knows how to teach them. Now, this is very briefly, teachers, what is special education and your school. Logically, you will think that this is really the right way, because I have not really been rigorously trained how to teach a child with hearing impairment, for example. So, if there is a teacher who knows how to sign and knows how to teach, and there are other children like him or her also who are not good, do not have good hearing, let them all study together. Now, this was something we did. Hold on to this. I will also tell you how we proceeded in the past decades with working with children who had certain disabilities. The next slide will tell you that we also have the world over tried to ask a resource teacher who again knows how to teach these children to join a regular school and teach a child in a resource room, and this child comes to the regular school, a classroom, only for some social activities or is there for during the lunch breaks, so only for short periods of time. This was also something that is still in practice and has been practiced the world over. Note, friends and teachers, the system of the class of the school remains the same. The child must adapt, or we sometimes declare that since he is not adapting, he is failing. Okay. Now, let me take you to the next slide, which will clarify what we are talking about now. We are saying that we are not going to point a finger at the child and say something is wrong with him or her or of a different gender. Okay? We are saying that we have to accommodate in our regular classrooms the needs of all children, and we are accepting that children are different. We are also believing strongly that all children can learn. In other words, I need to know how to teach the child, because if I don't know how to teach, it is my problem, not the child's problem. So, it is not pointing a finger at the child that you are different, but there are three fingers that point back at me and they say, I need to adapt my curriculum, I need to change my pedagogy, I need to have a classroom setting which is conducive to accommodate the different needs of all my children. So, this is what if I was to depict it pictorially, this is how I would try to make you look at inclusive education. Remember, this move has been made because very often we have found that when children join the special schools, they stay there for a lifetime. The door back to the main school is often closed. So, when you stay in a special school, say for 12 years, and then suddenly you come to the society, the neighborhood, the community, the children on the streets, the people on the street don't know your needs, don't know who you are, don't know how you study, and you don't know them. So, this sort of divide that the special school inadvertently brings in is not conducive to building inclusive societies. And when you are trying to bring a resource teacher to help these children learn, sometimes when the resource teacher doesn't come, what do we see as researchers? We see that the children are nobody's children, because it is the prime responsibility only of the special educator to look after the needs of these children. So, therefore, friends, because of this that I just talked about, very briefly telling you, we have moved from special schools, integrated schools to inclusive education, where we say that all children in a neighborhood, attend a class, attend a school and study under one roof. It is basically to promote inclusive societies and helping children empathize and know each other's needs. And that is the way forward, not only in our country and not only according to our policy, but the world over. So this, I hope, has made you look further closely at the concept of inclusive education and also understand a little bit about the why of it. Let's go on further to the next slide. See, this also explains very pictorially and in a very interesting manner that we need to look at our system and change it to fit the needs of all children and not, as I said earlier, pointing a finger and looking at only the child who may be the cause of his or her not progressing in school. Now we have children who have special needs because of disability, which Hardeep talked about right in the beginning. We also have children who are born in families who may not be declared as, or who may come under the category of poor households. Now you may have children who are from tribal blocks. You may have children who are first generation learners. You may have a group of children who came to school for some time, but something happened, maybe at home and maybe in the school, that they left the school system. We want to bring them back. Now all these groups and many more are what we are talking about when we are talking about changing the system and moving towards inclusion. Why do I use the term moving towards inclusion? It's very consciously as well, because it cannot happen in one day. It's a process. We have to think of the entire education system the way we are planning it. So therefore, each step takes us closer to it, but it cannot happen in a jiffy. It cannot happen just like that. So we have to all think together, put together our thoughts and ideas, because I know teachers, you've been doing it all these years. When I talk about this the way I am doing formally, some of you may be thinking, I've been doing this all my life. I've never let a child down. Ma'am, we've always catered to the needs of children. That's it. That's exactly what we are trying to tell you, that the policy says you take your efforts a little further down. Let's complete this slide. Let's move, see, this is what we are wanting you to see, and all the different colors and all the children. Remember, I also showed you some in the special school, and they have also moved up. In other words, children even now can attend special schools. We are not saying stop special schools, but we are saying do not think of children only special schools and normal schools. Children stay in special schools for some time, learn the skills, and once they learn the skills and are moving up with their learning, we bring them to the mainstream and teach them along with other children so that they know others, that is the other group of children who may be many in the class, and the many know these few as well. This way in schools we are building schools that are inclusive, and what we know is that when we build schools that are inclusive in this manner, we also build inclusive societies. So this really is the concept that I wanted to touch upon. Let's go to the next slide and see what I've tried to show here. I have tried to show through this depiction, which I'm sure you are making good sense of, that we may have these bits and pieces of puzzles. Children can be representing these different colored cutouts. But what we are wanting is that these different cutouts form a beautiful collated picture, and that's an inclusive classroom where the diversity is not frowned upon. You don't say, "Are, ye bacha, how am I going to teach this boy? He can't even sit for 10 minutes in one place. How can I teach this girl? her parents cannot support her education at all at home. How much can I do in school? Now, both these children that I've just talked about have a right to learn, and we need to respect that. We need to respect this diversity and consider ways of accommodating their learning styles in our regular classrooms. And what is your role as a teacher? Your role is that all your learners, all your children in your class feel supported. They feel that you're there for them and that they are safe in the class and they are encouraged to do better. Now, this is easy said than done. I will not, say that this just happens. No. You have to reflect on what you do. You have to plan what next to do. And many times those plans may not work. You have not to be feeling let down by that. You have to tell yourself, I am a teacher. I'm here to find ways to address the needs of all my learners. Let me ask another teacher. Let me talk to my principal. Let me talk to their parents. See, education, the parents may not be educated, but let's remember they have given birth to the child. They know the child far more than you do. So, talking to them, keeping them in confidence, sharing with them what you are doing, how the child is progressing is what will keep you and them partners in the true sense in the process of building inclusive classrooms. So, I encourage you to find ways to support yourself to handle these diverse needs of learners. We are not expecting you to become superhuman, but we are expecting you to become sensitive to the diversity and learn how to accommodate their needs, and above all to make children always feel that they are loved, cared for and are valuable for you. When you do that, half the battle is won. Next slide please. Now, all that I've told you is part of international agenda, part of our national agenda. The SDG goals talk about it. In goal 4, we say we have to ensure that inclusive and equitable quality education is provided and we promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Our NEP 2020 talks about equitable and inclusive education, learning for all that's provided for, and mind you, it is also a legal act binding on you. The RPWD Act 2016 says that schools in which you work as teachers need to provide inclusive education. So, it is not a bunch of activists who are trying to promote inclusion. It's not the policy in itself that's alone, the policy in India that's trying only to promote inclusion. It's a global phenomenon that we are all working towards providing equal opportunities to children in regular classrooms. And I repeat, it's not something now you can wish away because it's a legal binding. Now, when there's a legal binding, you know what it means. You can be taken to court if you don't. Now, the social media is active. I'm not scaring you. I'm just warning you. The day is not far when a teacher can be asked by a parent in the court, you have not used the right digital technology that's available, which my child responds to in your classroom, and you will have to answer. So, all I request you all is pull up your socks, get going, seek support from each other, because that's what's required, since it's in our policy, in our framework, in international mandates, and legally this is a common thread that runs through acts, policies and conventions. Next slide please. Let's look at diverse classrooms a little more closely. See this lovely visual. I think it says it all. Children who are with us have different academic needs. Who knows it better than you? They have different physical needs. Again, a peep into their lives tells us also that their psychosocial needs also need attention very often. Children are not homogeneous. They come from economic categories and backgrounds which are diverse. Now, we need to respect this diversity. And that can happen only if you ask yourself as a teacher before you go to sleep, did I treat my children equally today? Or was I carried away by the size of the car or the economic wealth that the child's parents are trying to influence us with? Am I looking at all of them with a lens which says they are all learners? This is a fundamental question that every teacher who works in a diverse classroom needs to ask. If a child is a girl child and happens to be a sex worker's daughter, am I ready to make my own daughter, if she's of the same age, sit by her and study in the class? This is a question I need to ask myself, because when I get an answer for this question, that only is a reflection of whether I'm ready to work in an inclusive and work for an inclusive classroom. I can go on with examples, but this is an example you can think about, and there are many more I know you know. Remember, children are not only diverse, we are also diverse. So when we deal with diversity amongst children, we need to also sit back and think, what do I believe in and how am I going to change my attitude and beliefs if my beliefs are not in tune with what the policy and the NCF 2023 school education talks about. I want you to think of what I have just said with this slide, reflect on it and do that silent reflection, because only that will prepare you to understand the concept and practice it. Next slide, please. Inclusion refers to not just putting children together. You could have diverse children in a class, but they may feel left out. That's why I said there are some children who leave our school systems. Now, they don't leave because they want to be roaming around. They leave because we push them out. They are not dropouts, they are push-outs. Now, therefore, we need to work in a way that we reduce the number of push-outs. We are almost 80 years independent now. Our nation is not a young nation, right? All these years we have worked in education very hard and achieved big milestones. But we want you now to work further on, because this is a profession we have chosen. And this profession demands that inclusive principles are followed in your classrooms, so that this child in a wheelchair is actually a part of the circle. And a child who may be the one wearing the yellow shirt may be coming, maybe really his skin tone may be dark. He may be by a child who is very fair, and he may be by a child who is very fat and plump, and he may be by a child who sings very well. Now, all of them, whatever be the shade of their color, tone of their skin, their hairstyle, their broken buttons which were not stitched, all this is not important. What's important is that we follow inclusivity in the true sense. Next one, please. Let's look at this slide. It tells us a lot. It talks about equality and equity. Now, there is a difference between the two. Just look at the visual. Does it say it all? I think it does. What are we to practice? You all would be saying equity. And that's what our policy also tells us, that we need to practice equity in our classrooms. And it requires putting systems in place so that every child has an equal chance for success. Every child will not perform equally, but should have an equal chance for success. In this case, it is viewing something that's happening in a playground. Now, one child does not need a box to stand, but there's another child who needs 2 boxes to be stacked up so that he can see what's happening across the fence. This explains it all. Each one of you has to work towards understanding the need and, as an educator, providing equity in your classrooms. Next one, please. Let's now look at our national curriculum framework a little closely. We have a policy. From that, we work on the national curriculum framework. Now, you will say, what is the need for a curriculum framework when we have a policy? I think each one of you know that the curriculum framework provides us some principles, some goals, a structure, and elements for easy implementation of a suggestive policy. See, all policies are not written in stone. They are suggestive. Now, the curriculum framework helps us prioritize equity with inclusion in all aspects of education. From the curriculum, we derive the curriculum framework, we get the curricula, the syllabus, the textbooks and the workbooks. So, you see how it's a very smooth process that you have to understand. So, the textbooks that you are working with in the schools and the workbooks, now you see, are linked with the policy, are linked with the curriculum framework. They emerge from there. And this is the pattern that you need to understand. You also need to understand that we are talking of inclusion not at a particular stage of the school life of a child. We are talking of it, as our policy is saying, when the child enters it in any learning setting at class 3. From 3 to 18, you have to remember that all that I have said in terms of providing diverse learners an equal opportunity to unfold their potential, that's what the curriculum framework gives us more information about. How do we do it? Let me also tell you that the NCF school education is in consonance with the provisions of the RPWD Act, and it endorses all its recommendations regarding school education. So, you see, we are, through our curriculum framework, we are bound legally also. Next slide. Let's look at inclusive practices for students with disability, which are covered in section 4.3. It says we need to provide physical access for all our students with disabilities. So, when you are talking about a barrier-free environment, and when you, for example, looking at only ramps, it's a ramp. You can say, ma'am, we don't have a wheelchair user in our class. Why are you getting this ramp constructed? Well, I'm getting this ramp constructed because a grandfather, a grandmother with a knee difficulty can also come. I'm getting this ramp constructed because other children can also run up the ramp into their classrooms and not always walk on the other side of the. I'm also getting this ramp constructed because a pregnant lady who is carrying her shopping groceries with her but wants to meet the teacher to know how her child is progressing should also feel free accessing the class. In other words, what I am trying to tell you is, do not demarcate certain infrastructures only for a few. All structures are for all. If you've got a blackboard fit in your classroom, you should have a child who is a wheelchair user should also be able to come and write on that blackboard. All you need is an adjustable small strip of steel which will help the blackboard move up and down, or the whiteboard move according to the height of the child, and if he is a wheelchair user, it will be lower. Similarly, your taps, they have to be in tune with there could be a real tall boy, and in the same age group there could be a child who is not as tall. So how do you make your infrastructure friendly for all? How do you make changes in your teaching content so that you are referring to the different levels of difficulty that children may be facing? How do you create content for in your textbooks and your worksheets which are accessible to all? These are things that you need to think about. Now it's very easy to provide children bigger font and small font. All this is something that you have to think about, your pedagogical accommodations, adopting universal design for learning, etc. The next slide, I will show you some more as it laid in the NEP 2020 and NCERT National Curriculum Framework. It talks about inclusive curriculum. It tells you how to address diverse needs, how do you remove barriers, and how do you, as I've been talking about, promote equity and respect. The next slide, please. Remember, all our thinking has to be rootedness in our Indian knowledge systems. They have always respected diversity and encourage values and dispositions which are pro diversity. And how do you learn and care for your environment? These are things that are not outside for only some children. These are for all children, and these are cross-cutting themes. Inclusion in schools cannot be done by just one teacher. Everybody has to think about it. The guidance and counseling done in schools has to be for all. The education technology has to be adapted and optimally used so that all learners can use it. These are cross-cutting themes that our curriculum framework talks about. Next one, please. Let's remember, every child is capable of learning. These are principles that are mentioned in 4.1. A child learns best when he is not mocked at, is respected, valued, and above all engaged in the process of learning. And we have to look into our own teaching styles. We should not be discriminatory. We must provide, I use again the word must, equitable learning opportunities. Different aids and appliances, if children need them, we need to find ways to provide them. If children ask questions, the more the merrier, because making mistakes is part of learning. You and I still make mistakes, so do children. Let them try out their ideas. Let them be children first, and their achievement standards will follow. If we respect them as children, we as teachers are moving towards our goal. Let's remember, there are children who come from migrant parents. They are there for 3 months, they may be gone for 2 months, they may rejoin. It's not the child's fault, and neither is it the parents. But it's for us to accommodate their needs, whether they are absent for long periods. How do we do it? We have to address it. And how do we also address the needs of the transgender students? We have to also keep considering that, because our policy says they are also equally to be respected and included in our classrooms. The children who are gifted, they also have to be accommodated in our regular classrooms. Next one. Remember, it's all for the children, for all the children. You need to be trained, you need to get in-service training, your pre-service needs to be strengthened. We are aware of all this. We are also aware that collaboration amongst different stakeholders is the key. No teacher can become superhuman. Every teacher has a family, has a life. We respect that. But we encourage that emphasis is given for including the school management in the process of planning, the community in the process of creating a supportive and inclusive learning environment. There are different approaches you can adopt. Encourage indigenous approach to education. That's what is very clearly mentioned. Mother tongue and medium of instruction, you have to respect that. You have to also, as I said, integrate Indian knowledge systems, use local materials, arts, craft, and in your curriculum. A holistic, experiential, and context-based learning is what we are talking about. Let's promote our oral traditions. Let's encourage folk knowledge, and traditional ecological practices need to be brought into the classroom. The next slide will tell you more about it. We also promote, as I said, the mother tongue, the local language, the focus on equity and providing access to all. That's something we've been working for many decades now. It's almost there, but working on inclusive curriculum and community participation is something you have to constantly evaluate and monitor. Next slide, please. Let me take you to a scenario. It could be in any state. It happens to be Jharkhand. An NGO has brought an accessible material. It's a learning resource. He's talking very big about it. Now, there are audiobooks, there are e-books, there are sign language videos for the foundational years. The school principal asks this NGO a question. He says, why did you bring this material in English? The answer is, well, I brought this material in English because we should promote English language in the early years of learning. Mind you, be sensitive to such assertions because obviously indigenous comes from the Latin word indigena. I think you know that, which means it has to spring from the land. It's to spring from what is contextual. So try to assess whatever we are doing should be in tune with where the children are and build on that. Not something because X, Y, Z has found it useful. I just wanted to highlight that and therefore I cited this example. English will come, but first it is the mother tongue that the child is using. The context has to be valued, whatever it is. The next one, please. Here's another experience which I thought I must share with you. I saw this and it was a beautiful classroom where a teacher said, I need to bring the parents in. And you know what I do? I send a red sticker, a coin, sort of plastic coin, and it is also on a cardboard, a red disc in the child's lunchbox or the bag, and a green one. I keep these tokens with me. The red tells the parent, come, I need to tell you something about the child and ask you also along with that. The green sticker or coin is just a sign for all parents that all is hunky, all is well, don't worry, we are moving in the right direction. This is a method a teacher has adopted for parents who did not get an opportunity to go to school and learn. They are not well read, they are not educated. Mind you, I didn't call them illiterate. They just did not get an opportunity to learn the way other parents do. But here is a teacher who has found this novel way of ensuring that the partnership is strengthened every day. Find your own ways. Here is another scenario that I saw very recently. A carpenter is brought into the class. He is telling children how to calculate area, how to make a chair out of the wood that we have, and he is explaining simple concepts. That's how we can make a maths lesson really meaningful and respect different professions and communities. Think of ways you can do this. I only leave some ideas with you. My own intention is that in this 40 minutes that you have spent with me, I make you reflect on what you are doing and do it better. There are no easy answers and no recipes for practicing inclusion. A good teacher is an inclusive teacher. A sensitive teacher is an inclusive classroom promoter. So learn to love your children more than you do already, care for their needs, work with them in a way that they want to come to your class and do not want to go away. Next slide, please. Remember some simple statements like asking children to fill up the sentences. When do they learn slowly? When do they learn quickly? What is for them learning from textbooks? If they write learning from textbooks is boring, put aside the textbooks for a few weeks. Try to teach them the same content in different ways. Bring the textbook in gradually. all I'm saying is ask children to give you verbal responses to some of such open-ended statements. You will know your learner better, and you will learn how to change your pedagogy in your classroom towards inclusion. It's no rocket science. It's what you do. You have to just do it for all. Next slide, please. There is this excellent series of storybooks which my colleagues in the next few days, in the next sessions, will tell you more about. We worked hard on making them accessible. It's available on NCERT website. Look into them. The next one, please. I'll leave you with some more thoughts. You can use what we have used in this Barkha series for all in games as well. Let's remember that UDL based games help all children learn together. Look through this material, you will understand it better. A game of Ludo can be made for all as well. Challenge yourself, you will find answers. We have explored many answers for you, but as I said, we don't have a magic wand that we can give you and which will make you practice inclusion. You have to reflect on what you do and think about these things that we have told you. The next slide, please. Again, more about how you can do it. Next one. This again tells you the importance of helping children be together and learn together and play together in environments that are moving towards inclusion. Next one, please. Let's remember the way forward is curriculum localized, respecting tribal communities and seeking their involvement, finding different ways of assessing children, and remember what you are doing, if you are doing it which stands out as something that others need to know, learn to document it, because things move from one classroom to another. If you just even write a small para about the way you made your classroom more inclusive today, there could be many ways you could do it, but remember to talk about them, share them with the excitement that you have within you, because a teacher by you may not be having that level of excitement. We need to build collectively school systems which are inclusive. It cannot happen, I repeat, in a short period of time. We have to work towards it consciously and with a sense of purpose and diligence. Next slide, please. Let's remember that my last thought for the day is that inclusive education can make learning meaningful, and true inclusion requires systemic change and local empowerment. You have to learn to feel empowered to try out different things, and inclusive education is a celebration of diversity, inclusivity, which Hardeep asked right in the beginning, and cultural respect. Thank you for your attention. We look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for delivering that wonderful presentation with such lovely and real life examples. I really like the concept of KYL. Like we have KYC in the bank, so
yes.
you must have Know Your Learner in the school systems. I really like that.
I like your acronym that you have introduced.
Yeah, KYL, Know Your Learner. As simple as that. And ma'am, we have received a few questions. They're two very important questions that I would like to ask you from our YouTube handle. So there's one viewer who has asked this very important question. What can we do if the children with disabilities as well as children from disadvantaged groups perceive themselves as different and the curriculum as an alien entity?
Excellent question. Children will feel different whether they have disability or they come from diverse backgrounds. Because of us, we have made them understand that, look, you cannot see and you're the only one in the class who cannot see, right? And the others can see. Now, when a child has heard this right from childhood, has heard that poor you, your one sense is not there, you know, and you talk only about that sense that's not there, but you don't talk about all that he has.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I feel that question is excellent. You have to build that confidence in the child in a slow and gradual manner.
Right.
You have to make other learners realize that this learner has qualities.
Absolutely.
So this is a thing that you will build bit by bit and it does happen if you try hard enough.
Again, KYL. And now we are left with very little time, but there is another important question, and I want you to request it briefly, ma'am.
Yeah.
The question is, when parents don't accept to keep their children in special schools, what to do? Because we are having one such child in our school and parents are not accepting of it.
In the special school?
In the special school, yes.
Yes. There is always denial, and we have to work on it very, very carefully. Special schools, remember, there is a door that opens out to bring them into mainstream also. So tell parents they are not going into the special school forever and ever. Yeah, we will mainstream them once they learn.
Absolutely, and that's what inclusivity and inclusion is here for. That's why we are having this training session.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Dr. Anupam. Thank you so much for your wonderful time. I felt like listening to you, and you were an excellent teacher out there and making us learn about all these concepts. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you for anchoring, and thank you all for your attention. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll move towards inclusion.
Absolutely. It was one delightful journey, and there's a lot more waiting to come your way in the days to follow. So that was our day one session where we talked about inclusive education, concept, need and scope under the umbrella theme of inclusive education and digital technology. With this, it's a wrap. And before I leave, let me give you quick information about the textbooks of grade 4 and 7 which are available on Amazon, Flipkart and NCERT website, and simultaneously take a quick look at the schedule what's all coming ahead. So in a short while from now, you can watch a session Sahyog where we will be talking about the impact of artificial intelligence on adolescents. So we request you to kindly participate in the session with your questions and feedback. And this is me, Harpreet Kaur, now taking leave of you, but you stay tuned for more only on our various handles. Namaskar.